I doubt I need to introduce Dead Space. It's a masterpiece of gaming that's been cherished by many, including yours truly, for years. However, for the sake of brevity, Dead Space is a third-person survival horror game developed by EA Redwood Shores, now known as Visceral Games, for PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Microsoft Windows. It is the first installment in the Dead Space series and was released on October 14th, 2008 on PS3 and Xbox 360, and October 20th of the same year for Windows. The player takes the role of an engineer named Isaac Clarke, who battles the undead species known as necromorphs on board an interstellar mining ship. I remember when this game was first announced for Xbox Game Pass. I jumped at the opportunity, and having replayed it very recently, I can confidently say that the movement is beautiful. On arrival to the ship, two of the members of Isaac's team are killed, and he's separated from a squad. So begins Dead Space. Have you ever played a game where your character slides? Not crouch sliding like seen in FPS games, but really just slides around like they were walking on ice, totally separate from the world around them? That's not Dead Space. Many people don't notice things like this when done poorly, but when the movement is done well, it turns even the most basic of gameplay elements into amazing spectacles. As an engineer wearing a heavy suit, Isaac's movement isn't fast, but rather slow and methodical. When you run down a hallway, raise your gun, or stomp on an enemy, Isaac is imbued with a sense of weight. It feels almost like he's doing these actions underwater, with the added weight of the suit as a result of this movement. It's much slower than many other gamers I used to, bordering on numbering at times, but the movement controls are well implemented. You are part of the area, being thrown around by enemies and slowly getting back up. Of course, you're not jumping over obstacles like in Tomb Raider, but you still feel like you could, just with a bit of effort. This fits well with the mostly industrial backdrop of this game, with large machinery and small spaces forcing you to think about how to succeed. These confined spaces also help mesh the horror of the ship together as well, knowing an enemy could jump out at any moment. Shortly into the game, this happens. With enemies appearing en masse and swarming the player, it becomes obvious this weight doesn't only apply to the player, but also to guns as well. Combat in this game is much less focused on clicking on an enemy until they drop. Instead, it's better to make space between them to pick them off individually. In these scenes, movement becomes more abstract, with the enemies becoming more of a tidal wave instead of individual entities. Using the weapons on hand, mostly engineering tools, you always come out on top though. The weight of these guns comes mainly from the enemy's reaction to them. When shots connect, they stumble and fall, limbs are blown off, and in many cases they are pushed back. No weapon shows this off better than the Force Gun, which when used at close range, sends enemies flying halfway across the room. All this together makes the combat feel very visceral and meaty. It's a constant tug-of-war between managing movement and weaponry, while also keeping track of enemy movement. The final piece of this puzzle comes in the form of sound design, though. Isaac's footsteps feel heavy and labored. Punches and stomps make a solid thud. It's perhaps the least important design, but without it, a lot would be lost. This is a new form of content for my channel besides the usual gameplay and memes, and it may not be received well. Please leave ideas for future videos and how you feel about the style of content in the comments, and have a great day, everyone.